The Horn of Africa is once again at a crossroads, as the fragile détente between Ethiopia and Eritrea unravels, threatening to plunge the region into renewed instability. The alliance that briefly united the two nations during the Tigray War from 2020 to 2022 has deteriorated, reigniting historical animosities and raising concerns about a broader regional conflict. The roots of the Ethiopia-Eritrea conflict trace back to the colonial era and reflect a century-long struggle for sovereignty, identity, and control. Eritrea was an Italian colony from 1890 until the defeat of Italy in World War II. Afterward, it was placed under British administration. In 1952, under a United Nations resolution, Eritrea was federated with Ethiopia as an autonomous entity. However, Ethiopia, under Emperor Haile Selassie, annexed Eritrea in 1962, dissolving the federation and making Eritrea a province, an act that sparked a 30-year war for independence. The Eritrean People's Liberation Front waged a prolonged guerrilla war against successive Ethiopian regimes, first the imperial government, then the Derg military junta led by Mengistu Haile Mariam. By 1991, the Eritrean People's Liberation Front, allied with the Tigray People's Liberation Front, overthrew the Derg regime. In 1993, Eritrea formally gained independence through a UN-supervised referendum, with overwhelming public support. Tensions flared again over disputed border areas, particularly the town of Badme, leading to a brutal border war from 1998 to 2000. Tens of thousands died. Despite the Algiers Agreement in 2000 and a ruling by the Eritrea-Ethiopia Boundary Commission in 2002, awarding Badme to Eritrea, Ethiopia refused to implement the ruling, leading to a no-war, no-peace stalemate that persisted for nearly 2 decades. In 2018, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed initiated a historic peace process with Eritrea, culminating in a normalization of relations. Abiy was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2019 for this effort. However, the peace was more symbolic than substantive, with little progress on demarcation or economic integration. Ethiopia's landlocked status has long been a strategic vulnerability. In a bid to secure direct access to the Red Sea, Addis Ababa signed a controversial agreement with Somaliland on January 1, 2024, granting Ethiopia a 20-kilometer stretch of coastline for a commercial port and naval base in exchange for recognizing Somaliland's sovereignty. This move has been met with fierce opposition from Somalia, which views it as a violation of its territorial integrity and has strained relations with neighboring Eritrea. The maritime deal has also alarmed Egypt, which has long-standing tensions with Ethiopia over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Cairo perceives Ethiopia's naval ambitions as a direct threat, leading to a strategic alignment with Somalia and Eritrea. In October 2024, leaders from these 3 nations convened in Asmara to discuss a potential collective security alliance against Ethiopia, signaling a significant shift in regional dynamics. The Pretoria Peace Agreement of November 2022, which aimed to end the Tigray conflict, has inadvertently exacerbated tensions between Ethiopia and Eritrea. Eritrea, dissatisfied with the agreement's terms and Ethiopia's subsequent rapprochement with Western nations, has maintained a military presence in parts of Tigray, defying calls for withdrawal. Eritrea's apprehensions are compounded by Ethiopia's internal challenges, including unrest in the Amhara and Oromia regions and the resurgence of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, or TPLF. Asmara fears that a stable and empowered Ethiopia could undermine its own strategic interests, prompting it to support various non-state actors to counterbalance Addis Ababa's influence. The deteriorating Ethiopia-Eritrea relationship has broader implications for the Horn of Africa. The region is already grappling with civil unrest in Sudan, insurgencies in Somalia, and heightened tensions along the Red Sea. A renewed conflict between Ethiopia and Eritrea could disrupt critical trade routes, exacerbate humanitarian crises, and provide fertile ground for extremist groups to exploit the chaos. International actors, including the United Nations, African Union, and European Union, have called for restraint and dialogue. However, Eritrea's hard stance and Ethiopia's preoccupation with domestic issues complicate mediation efforts. The lack of effective diplomatic engagement raises the spectre of a proxy war, reminiscent of Cold War-era conflicts with global powers potentially backing opposing sides. To avert a descent into widespread conflict, experts advocate for a multifaceted approach. First, inclusive dialogue. Engage all relevant stakeholders, including Eritrea, in meaningful negotiations to address mutual concerns and build trust. Second, addressing internal grievances. Accelerate humanitarian aid and political integration efforts in Tigray and other restive regions to mitigate internal dissent. Third, regional cooperation. Leverage platforms like the African Union and Intergovernmental Authority on Development, or IGAD, to mediate disputes and foster regional stability. The Horn of Africa stands at a critical juncture. Without concerted efforts to address the underlying causes of tension and promote inclusive dialogue, the region risks sliding into a cycle of conflict with far-reaching consequences. The century-old Ethiopia-Eritrea rivalry remains a flashpoint that must be addressed not only through political will but through sustained regional and international engagement.